Princess Alira had been traveling through the stars for what felt like years. The Zathian Empire, a civilization known for its peace and technological marvels, had long held alliances with many other species in the galaxy. But now, Alira had a different mission. She wasn't just visiting another world for diplomatic talks. She was here for something far more personal. Peace was essential, yes, but she also had a curiosity she couldn't ignore about the humans, their culture, their ways of thinking, and especially their resilience. The Zathian Empire had always been surrounded by advanced societies. Their worlds were rich in technology and wisdom. Humans, however, were different. They were young, struggling to find their place in the vast universe, yet they showed an incredible tenacity. For a princess raised among the calm of her empire, the idea of being around humans was both exciting and intimidating. On this particular day, the high-ranking human officials had invited her to a military base on the edge of a newly established colony. It was there that the humans were training their soldiers for the first time, preparing for the future that was unfolding before them. As a guest, Alira's role was primarily symbolic, yet there was something else, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. She had a deep feeling that this mission might teach her something about the humans she couldn't learn from books or royal banquets. The base was busy. Men and women in military uniforms hurried from one task to the next, their eyes focused on the job at hand. The atmosphere was tense but focused. Alira was given a tour by the base commander, who walked beside her with respect, but also with clear admiration. He explained the human soldiers' daily routine, their training techniques, and the resources they had at their disposal. The princess listened carefully, her sharp mind taking in every detail. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to these soldiers than met the eye. After the tour, she was allowed some time to explore the base on her own. The commander was clear about the rules. Stay within the safe zones and avoid the restricted areas. But, as with many people who were accustomed to exploring new places, Alira's curiosity got the better of her. The base wasn't as impressive as the grand cities of Zaith, but there was something raw and real about it that intrigued her. It was a reflection of humanity in all its messy, imperfect glory. Her footsteps echoed down the hallways, her soft silver gown trailing behind her. Her violet eyes sparkled as she admired the simple, yet functional designs of the base. It wasn't the high-tech corridors of her home planet, but the humans had made do with what they had. As she turned a corner, her gaze fell upon a door with a simple sign, Sergeant Noah Andrews' quarters. Alira had heard about Sergeant Andrews. He was known for his calmness under pressure and his leadership skills. Some said he had the same stubbornness as the humans themselves. But Alira was not here to learn about their soldiers. She was simply exploring, looking for a quiet spot to gather her thoughts. With no one in sight, she decided to take a chance and peek inside. As she pushed open the door, she found herself in a small, unremarkable room. It was neat but sparse. The walls were lined with military awards, photographs of soldiers and their families, and a few personal mementos. Alira stepped inside, looking around with mild interest. She wasn't sure what she expected, but she found comfort in the simplicity. This room didn't scream of status or luxury. It was a reflection of the soldier who lived there, practical, focused, and perhaps a little lonely. She moved closer to the window, gazing out at the distant horizon. The view was serene, a stark contrast to the chaos that usually surrounded her. As her mind wandered, she didn't notice the door opening behind her. "Hey, what are you doing in here?" Alira whipped around, startled by the sudden voice. She found herself face to face with a man, human but tall, with dark eyes and a no-nonsense expression. He wore a standard military uniform, his arms crossed as he leaned against the doorframe. I'm sorry," Alira said quickly, her voice calm but apologetic. "I didn't mean to intrude, I was just curious." The soldier looked at her with wide eyes. He clearly wasn't expecting to find a princess in his room. Alira could tell he wasn't thrilled by the idea, but she didn't mind. She had faced this kind of reaction before, even among the most important leaders of her empire. "You're the princess, right?" the soldier asked, still standing in the doorway. His voice was a mixture of confusion and curiosity. Alira nodded, straightening her back. "I am Princess Alira of the Zathian Empire. I apologize for intruding, but I was simply exploring the base." The soldier's eyes softened, and he sighed, stepping into the room. "Well, it's not exactly a tourist spot." But if you're really curious, I guess I could give you a quick tour of my room. There was a hint of sarcasm in his voice, but Alira didn't mind. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued by his casual tone. I would appreciate it. I'm not used to rooms like this. Noah chuckled, a small smile tugging at his lips. I figured we don't have much in the way of luxury here. He gestured around the room. You can see for yourself, just some basic things. It's all about practicality. Alira looked around again, her eyes lingering on the small, personal touches, the worn books, the medals, the photos. This wasn't the cold, polished atmosphere of her palace, but there was something grounding about it. Thank you, she said, turning back to him. I've never seen a room like this before. Noah gave her a half shrug. It's just my space, not much to see, really. For a moment they stood in silence, both unsure of what to say next. Then Alira spoke again, her voice quieter this time. I didn't mean to invade your privacy. Noah paused before responding. It's fine. Honestly, it's not like you'll be the first person to step in here. His tone was less formal now, more relaxed. But you do realize this is a restricted area, right? Alira's heart skipped a beat. I wasn't aware. I didn't mean to break any rules. Noah let out a small laugh. Well, now you know, but you can't just wander into someone's quarters without permission. It's not safe. I understand, Alira said, nodding her head. I'll leave then. But as she turned to leave, Noah stopped her. You don't have to go just yet. You're here now and... Well, it's not every day I get a princess in my room. Maybe we can talk a little more. I don't know much about your empire, but I'd be interested to hear what it's like. Alira hesitated for a moment, unsure. This human soldier who seemed so ordinary was offering her a seat in his modest quarters, and she found herself accepting. Well, I suppose a conversation would be nice, Alira said softly. I've heard much about humans and your unique ways of thinking. Noah gave a small smile and gestured to a chair. Well, I'm sure you'll find we're not that different from your empire. In the end, we're all just trying to survive. And so they sat down together, their conversation flowing easily. As the minutes passed, Alira realized that maybe she wasn't so far from home after all. The base was unfamiliar, but this soldier, with his quiet wisdom and grounded presence, made her feel like she belonged. The princess didn't know it yet, but her time with Noah was just beginning, and despite her best efforts, she wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. The days passed slowly at the base. Princess Alira had spent more time in the company of Sergeant Noah Andrews than she had expected. What had begun as a simple curiosity about the human soldiers had turned into something far more intriguing. She found herself looking forward to their conversations, even though they were so different from the formal diplomatic talks she was used to. There was something about Noah that was different from the men and women of her own empire. He wasn't concerned with status or titles. He was just human. Every day after the base activities settled down, Alira would find an excuse to return to Noah's quarters. At first, it was to ask about the base's layout or the intricacies of human military strategy. But as the days passed, the questions became more personal. She was fascinated by how Noah, despite the difficult and often dangerous work he did, maintained his calm demeanor. There was an easy way about him that drew her in, and she began to trust him more than anyone else on the base. Noah, on the other hand, was still adjusting to the idea of spending so much time with a member of royalty. He had never been one to care much for titles or politics. But there was something about Alira that made him forget all that. She wasn't like the politicians he had met before. She was curious, funny, and sometimes awkward in a way that made him feel at ease. It didn't take long for him to realize that she wasn't like any other royal figure he had encountered. She didn't put on airs or try to impress anyone with her status. She was just Alira. It was late one afternoon when Noah and Alira found themselves sitting together on the small balcony outside his quarters. The sky above them was filled with the soft orange glow of the setting sun. The quiet hum of the base was all around them, but for the first time it didn't feel like a military outpost. It felt peaceful. I never imagined life here would be so different, Alira said, her voice soft as she gazed out at the horizon. Back on Zaith, everything is so structured. We have our duties, our rules, our roles. But here, it's all so messy. Noah chuckled, looking out at the base as well. Yeah, it's not what you'd call organized chaos. It's just how things work here. People are constantly figuring things out on the fly. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail, but it's all part of the process. Alira turned to him, her violet eyes searching his face. Does it never get frustrating to work without a clear plan? He shrugged. It does, but that's part of being human, I guess. We don't always have all the answers, but we try. And when it gets tough, we lean on each other. That's how we make it work. Alira nodded thoughtfully, her fingers tapping lightly on the edge of the railing. I think I understand. I've always had everything planned for me. I didn't have much room to make mistakes, to figure things out on my own. She looked down, as if embarrassed by the confession. I think that's why I've enjoyed spending time here with you. Noah raised an eyebrow in surprise. Me, what do you mean? I mean, she continued, her voice a little quieter, being here with humans and seeing how you all navigate through life. It's different. You don't need to have everything figured out to move forward. You just do what you can and try to make the best of it. Noah smiled at her. Well, we don't have much choice, do we? If we stopped trying every time something went wrong, we wouldn't get very far. They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments, watching the last rays of the sun disappear behind the horizon. For the first time, Alira felt at peace, her usual worries about protocol and diplomacy fading into the background. In Noah's presence, she felt like she could be herself. Tell me more about Earth, she said suddenly, her voice curious. What's it like to grow up here, in a place like this? Noah thought for a moment before replying. It's not always easy. We have a lot of different cultures, different ways of life, and not everyone agrees on everything. There are wars, disagreements, and sometimes people don't treat each other the way they should. But we also have kindness. We have love. We have things that make us want to keep going, no matter how hard it gets. Alira listened intently, her mind racing with the ideas he was sharing. She had heard of Earth's struggles, its battles and conflicts, but hearing it from Noah, someone who had lived through it, gave it a different meaning. It was raw and real, not just a history lesson. Do you think humans will ever be able to solve their problems? She asked. Noah thought about it. I think we're always trying. Some people give up, but there are always others pushing forward. Maybe one day we'll get it right, but for now we do what we can. Alira's gaze softened. That's inspiring, he smiled. You think so? I do. You're not perfect, but you try, and that makes a difference. Noah's smile faded a little, replaced by something more thoughtful. You know, you've changed the way I see things too. I never really thought much about other species, let alone royalty, but... Well, you're not what I expected. You're not what anyone expected. Alira felt a strange warmth spread through her at his words. I suppose I'm not, she said with a small laugh, but I'm not trying to be anything other than myself. Noah looked at her, his gaze softer now. And that's enough, for anyone, really? Alira felt a sudden urge to reach out to touch his hand, but she pulled back before she could act on it. It was strange, this connection they had. It wasn't something she was used to, not with anyone. But something about Noah made her feel safe, like she didn't have to pretend to be something she was. She looked at him again, her heart beating faster than usual. Noah, thank you for all of this, for letting me see the real human side of things. He nodded, giving her a reassuring smile. No need to thank me. You've taught me a lot too, Alira. They sat in silence again, the weight of their conversation hanging in the air. But it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was one filled with mutual understanding, with respect that had grown between them over the past few days. As the stars began to twinkle in the dark sky above them, Alira realized that the peace she had been searching for might not be found in her palace on Zaith, or in the rules and regulations of her empire. It might be found in unexpected places, in a soldier's room, in the quiet moments spent with someone who didn't judge her, but simply accepted her for who she was. Noah stood up, stretching his arms above his head. I should probably get back to work. They'll be expecting me. Alira stood as well, a little reluctantly. I suppose I should go too. I'm not exactly supposed to be here. No one's going to stop you, he said with a grin. I know, she replied with a smile of her own. But I think I've overstayed my welcome for today. Noah opened the door for her, and as she stepped out, he followed her to the hallway. Same time tomorrow? Alira looked at him, a soft smile playing at her lips. Same time tomorrow. As she walked away, she realized just how much she was beginning to enjoy her time with Noah. It wasn't the grandeur of the palace or the accolades of her people that made her feel important anymore. It was moments like these, small, quiet, and real, that were beginning to matter most. And in her heart, she knew that, no matter how different their worlds were, something had shifted between them. The days grew longer at the base, and with each passing day, Princess Alira found herself feeling more and more at ease in the company of Sergeant Noah Andrews. The initial awkwardness had faded, replaced by something deeper. A connection had formed between them, one neither of them had expected. It was strange, this bond they were building. They came from different worlds, with different customs and expectations. But here, in the quiet moments they shared, none of that seemed to matter. Alira had never imagined that she would find comfort in such a simple place, a military base on a distant planet, far from the opulent halls of her royal family. But here, with Noah, she felt like she could finally breathe. She could be herself. The pressure of being a princess, of living up to expectations, of carrying the weight of an entire empire on her shoulders, it all seemed to slip away when she was with him. Noah, too, had found something he didn't know he was looking for. He had spent his life surrounded by soldiers, each of them focused on the mission, driven by duty and responsibility. But Alira was different. She wasn't here to follow orders or adhere to the rigid structure of military life. She was here because she wanted to understand. She wanted to learn, and that desire to learn, to truly understand what it meant to be human, was something Noah admired more than anything else. The morning they were about to face a new challenge, Alira and Noah found themselves once again in the small courtyard outside Noah's quarters. It had become their place, a spot where they could talk freely, without the weight of their positions or the eyes of others upon them. "You know," Noah said, looking up at the sky, "I've been thinking. The base's defense system is getting outdated. It won't hold up if we ever face a serious attack." Alira turned to him, her violet eyes narrowing with curiosity. "You've been thinking about this. What do you think needs to change?" "I've seen some of the alien technology that's been shared with us," Noah continued. "But the systems we use are still old. There's no reason why we can't improve them. I've been talking to a few of the tech specialists, and we think we could make some changes, but it's going to take time." Alira's brow furrowed, her mind working. "If you can't wait for the higher-ups to approve the changes, then why not do it yourself? You've seen how effective humans can be when they put their minds to something. The Zathian Empire may be technologically advanced, but we didn't get to where we are without a little bit of creativity." Noah looked at her, impressed by her insight. "You make a good point. Maybe we don't need to wait for approval. Maybe we can start small, make the changes we can, and go from there." Alira smiled. "You're not afraid to take risks, are you?" Noah chuckled. "I've had to take a few risks in my life. It's not always easy, but sometimes it's the only way to get things done." Their conversation was interrupted by the sudden shrill sound of the emergency alarm. Alira stiffened, instinctively reaching for the communicator at her side. The look on Noah's face told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't a drill. "Get to your stations," Noah commanded, his voice steady despite the rising tension in the air. "We've got incoming." Alira's heart raced as she followed him into the main command center. The once calm base was now filled with a sense of urgency as soldiers scrambled to their posts. Alira had seen military operations before, but never like this. The coordinated chaos, the focus, the precision, it was something to behold. Humans, despite their relatively young place in the galaxy, had learned to survive through sheer willpower and determination. "What's happening?" Alira asked as she stepped up to the central console, watching the screens flicker with reports of incoming threats. "We've got an attack from the Zarvian raiders," Noah replied, his fingers flying over the control panel. "They've bypassed some of our outer defenses. They're making a push for the central compound." Alira's mind raced. She had heard of the Zarvians, brutal and ruthless in their tactics. They had no regard for diplomacy or peace. The thought of them getting so close to the base sent a chill down her spine. She had to do something. She couldn't just stand there and watch. "Noah, what can I do?" Alira asked, her voice firm. Noah looked at her, his face grim. "This is going to get messy. Stay close to me and do what I tell you. We need to move quickly." Without hesitation, Alira nodded. She wasn't afraid. The Zathian Empire had taught her how to fight, how to survive in dangerous situations. But this was different. She wasn't in the controlled environment of her palace, surrounded by guards and security. She was here with Noah on the front lines. The two of them worked together seamlessly, coordinating the defense of the base. Alira's sharp mind and quick thinking proved invaluable as she helped Noah strategize and direct soldiers to key positions. The humans weren't used to having someone like her around, but she quickly proved herself to be a capable ally, her royal training coming to the forefront in a way she had never expected. The battle raged on for hours, the sound of gunfire and explosions echoing throughout the base. Alira could feel the tension in the air, the weight of each decision she and Noah made. But through it all, they remained focused, determined to protect the base and its people. At one point, Noah and Alira found themselves trapped in a narrow corridor, surrounded by the sounds of Zarvian soldiers closing in. The situation was dire, but Noah's calm demeanor never wavered. He looked at Alira and gave her a small, reassuring smile. "We've got this," he said, his voice low but confident. Alira nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She trusted him, and for the first time she realized that she wasn't just here to observe, she was here to fight. She was part of this team. With renewed determination, they pushed forward, fighting side by side. It wasn't easy, but they made it through the chaos, securing their position and driving the Zarvians back. The base had survived thanks to their quick thinking and their teamwork. As the dust began to settle, Alira stood next to Noah, her body bruised and tired but her spirit stronger than ever. The base was safe, for now. And though the battle had been hard, it had changed something in her. She had never felt more alive, more connected to these humans than she did in that moment. Noah turned to her, his expression softening. "You did good, princess." Alira smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I couldn't have done it without you." They stood there for a moment, the weight of the battle still fresh in their minds, but there was a quiet understanding between them now. They were no longer just a soldier and a princess. They were allies, they were friends, and perhaps, just perhaps, something more. As the sound of footsteps approached, signaling the arrival of other soldiers and higher-ups, Alira and Noah exchanged a brief look. They knew that the battle was won, but their journey was far from over. And as Alira watched Noah walk away to give his report, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. She had come here looking for something, an understanding of the human spirit, a glimpse into what made them so resilient. What she hadn't expected was to find herself in the process. But now she couldn't imagine leaving this base, leaving Noah, or leaving behind the sense of purpose she had discovered in this strange, unpredictable world. The days following the attack were filled with a mixture of relief and tension. The Zarvian raiders had been pushed back, but the aftermath of the battle left the base in a state of disarray. Soldiers worked tirelessly to repair damaged equipment, rebuild defenses, and process the casualties. But for Princess Alira, the chaos of the battle had brought something unexpected: clarity. She had always thought that her place was in the palace, attending to diplomatic matters, signing treaties, and overseeing the grand vision of the Zathian Empire. But now, standing amidst the wreckage of war, she realized that there was more to life than just following orders. There was something powerful in taking action, in being part of something bigger than herself. Noah was at the heart of it all, as always. His calm demeanor had never faltered during the battle, and it didn't falter now as he walked through the base, coordinating recovery efforts and giving orders with authority. Alira couldn't help but admire him even more in the aftermath of the attack. He was a man of action, someone who didn't hesitate when faced with danger. But he was also kind, patient, and understanding in ways she hadn't expected from someone in his position. It was late in the evening when Alira found herself standing outside Noah's quarters again. The sun had long set, and the base was quieter now, with most soldiers either resting or working on their tasks. She hadn't seen Noah for a few hours, and she wanted to check on him to see how he was holding up after the battle. She had grown used to his presence, and she found herself missing him when he wasn't around. She knocked lightly on the door, her heart beating a little faster than usual. When Noah opened the door, he looked a little surprised, but the warmth in his eyes quickly replaced any surprise. "Princess Alira," he said, his voice soft. "What brings you here?" I just wanted to see how you're doing," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "The battle was intense. I know you've been working hard." Noah stepped aside to let her in. "I'm fine," he said, though his voice betrayed a hint of exhaustion. "It's just another day, you know, the job never ends." Alira nodded, following him into the room. She could see the toll the battle had taken on him. His uniform was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He had been working non-stop, even in the aftermath of the attack. Alira could see that he was tired, but he didn't complain. He just kept going, doing what needed to be done. "I'm sorry for keeping you so busy," she said softly. "I know you must be exhausted." Noah shook his head, smiling faintly. "It's part of the job, but I appreciate you checking in." They stood in silence for a moment, both unsure of what to say next. There was a strange tension in the air, a quiet understanding that had developed between them over the past few days. Alira had never imagined that she would form such a close bond with someone like Noah, but here they were, sharing moments like this, small, quiet, and real. "You've been through a lot," Alira said, breaking the silence. "You should rest. I can take care of things for now." Noah looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "I've always been the one to take care of others. It's strange having someone else offer to help." Alira smiled softly. "Everyone needs help sometimes, even you." He was quiet for a moment, and then he nodded. "I guess you're right. I don't know how to stop sometimes. There's always something else that needs to be done." "I understand," Alira said, her voice gentle. "But you can't keep going forever without rest. You're only human." Noah chuckled at that. "I'm aware of that. But sometimes it feels like I'm not." They shared a brief, understanding smile. In that moment, it became clear to both of them that their relationship had evolved beyond anything either had expected. It wasn't just a soldier and a princess, bound by duty and circumstance. It was something more, something that neither of them had anticipated, but something that had grown naturally over time. Alira took a deep breath and stepped a little closer to him. "You know, I've been thinking." "About what?" Noah asked, his tone curious. "I've been thinking about what comes next," Alira said, her voice quieter now. "The Zathian Empire has its place in the galaxy, and I have my responsibilities, but I've realized something. I don't just want to be a figurehead, someone who stands in the background and signs treaties. I want to make a difference. I want to be part of something that matters." Noah listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers. "You already are part of something that matters. You're here, you're learning, and you're making an impact. That's more than most people can say." Alira smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, Noah. That means more than you know." For a moment, they just stood there in the quiet of the room, their thoughts lingering in the air between them. The world outside seemed distant, as if it no longer mattered. It was just the two of them, standing in the quiet of Noah's quarters, finding comfort in each other's presence. "I've never really known what it meant to be part of something bigger," Alira said softly. "But now I think I understand. It's not just about power or influence. It's about the people you work with, the connections you make. It's about standing together, facing whatever comes your way." Noah looked at her, his expression softening. "That's the human way, Princess. We've never had the luxury of just sitting back and watching things happen. We've had to fight for every inch we've gained, and along the way, we've learned that it's the people who matter most." Alira felt a wave of emotion rise in her chest. She had spent so long focused on the grandeur of her title, the expectations of her people, that she had forgotten what it truly meant to be connected to others. But now, standing here with Noah, she understood. It wasn't about the title or the position. It was about the bonds you formed, the trust you built, and the actions you took together. "Maybe that's why I'm here," Alira said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe I'm not just here to observe. Maybe I'm here to learn what it means to be part of something real." Noah's expression softened even more. "I think you're already learning, and I think you're making a difference here. You just don't see it yet." Alira felt her heart beat faster at his words. There was something in his gaze, something more than just respect or friendship. It was something deeper, something she couldn't quite define. She wasn't sure where this feeling was taking them, but she didn't want to let it go. "I don't want to leave," she said quietly, her voice filled with sincerity. "Not now, not after everything we've been through." Noah's gaze held hers, his silence speaking volumes. The air between them seemed to pulse with something unspoken, something both fragile and powerful at the same time. "I don't want you to leave either," he said finally, his voice low and steady. And for the first time, Alira allowed herself to believe that this bond they had formed, this connection, wasn't just a passing moment. It was something real, something that mattered. As the night wore on, they sat together, the weight of the day's events slowly fading into the background. For the first time, Alira felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. And with Noah by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next.